between the hours of 10 and of course 11 a.m. in the morning. Casualty 911 is on. Who's here with me? Miss Joseph.
I like you did that deliberately.
Hey, Miss Louisa is there. All right, let's play. All right. Louisa, she's there. Is it too cold for you, Louisa?
No, it's all right.
You
It's
sure?
okay. It's okay.
Good morning. Welcome inside another edition of Casualty 911. All right.
Thank you, Erlan. Let me just say it's wonderful to be here today. I must admit, I can feel your energy this morning, so it's a good thing. So that will kind of give me a little bit more energy. Let me just say good morning to all our listeners. Good morning to M&C Drugstore staff. I know you all have been listening, and you all told me that I have not been acknowledging you all. Of course, I've been. Sherry, Miss B, Everista, everybody, good morning. Let me say a happy good morning to all our caretakers out there, teachers, students. Good morning, market vendors, our public servants in the Sufra area and everybody that is listening, as well as persons, the public from countries. It's always happy to know that you're listening, and we're happy that you are taking some time out to listen to our program. I hope that our program has been creating a lot of awareness within the communities. Feel free, if anybody sees me, they can stop me and have their suggestions and so on. It's always a pleasure to be here. Before we go on, let me just give one announcement. There is Pfizer vaccine available to our young ones from 5 to 11 years old. So parents, pediatric interested in giving the children the Pfizer vaccine between the ages of 5 to 11, feel free to go to our wellness centers and inquire about it. Speak to our nurses or your our doctors and find out if your child is eligible for the vaccine. I know persons might have their reservations, they might have questions, that is why we're here. So stop by our wellness centers and inquire about the pediatric Pfizer vaccine. This morning, I must admit, it's a topic that I have long awaited for, and I'm very, very happy that we have this topic today. This topic has always been something that I was hoping that we could have on the show even earlier, but due to circumstances, it was not possible. In our communities, every day we see persons taking actions, persons acting differently, persons you grow up with start acting differently, and you don't know a reason why. And after a while, you just hear the person probably, attempt suicide or did something that is quite shocking to you. And these things has been going in our communities for such a long time. We as persons in the public, family members, do not even know how to deal with these things, and sometimes we don't even see the signs, and that's what hurts the most. Or maybe it's the way we deal with these situations. We start seeing signs, but we deal with it so differently. Maybe our mindset, the way we treat that person instead of providing that level of support. And I must admit, I am quite happy with the mental health team, island-wide, especially liaising with us with the radio program and giving the information out there. And I think most of us can learn so much from our mental health team. And today, we have two persons with us from our mental health team. One of them is no stranger to us. I can definitely tell you, but I'm not going to introduce anybody. I'm going to allow persons to introduce themselves. Let me just say, we have a strong mental health team, and they have already come on board and tell us all the services that they're offering island-wide, the the wellness centers, where you can get them, what dates, and so on. So now we have a special topic today, and I'm going to let those persons speak about the topic. I'm not going to say anything, I'm leaving it quite a surprise. And I must admit, I must say thank you to Nurse Saint-Gis for and Nurse Matthew in our region initiating such and bringing other persons from other regions speaking to us about these issues. So without further ado, let me say good morning to our guests. We'll start with Jana. I know you have been here before with us, so I'll start with you. Then afterwards, we'll go to Nurse Gabriel. Am I saying it the right way?
Yes, good morning. That is correct. It's Gabriel.
Okay. Are you all hearing us?
Yes, I am.
Okay,
Can you hear me?
wonderful. Okay, so Jana, you'll start by introducing yourself, and then we will have Nurse Gabriel. Nurse or Dr. Gabriel? I didn't get it correctly, yeah?
Can you hear me clearly?
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Good morning.
Okay.
I am Jana Phillips Edward. I work as a community mental health nurse, and I am attached to Region 4, which is Miku and its environs. The theme for this year's suicide awareness is creating hope through action, which is the same theme they had last year, and they're intending on continuing this theme throughout next year as well.
Nurse Gabriel, can you introduce yourself?
Okay, my name is Malana Gabriel. I specialize in mental health, specifically mental health nurse practitioner. I just completed the program. I'm attached to Region 7. Um, it's my first time being here, as you mentioned, and I'm actually excited to share information and clear out any misconception that is attached to suicide.
Wonderful. Are we hearing them clearly?
Clearly.
Clearly? Okay, wonderful. Let me just say welcome. And I know this is the first time you're going to be you here, but I know for a fact that you're going to be here again pretty soon. So have no fear. You will be here. Um, as time goes by, because that is a topic. Mental health and different aspects of mental health is something we want to continue speaking about throughout the year, at least once a month. In our program, we want to continue creating that level of awareness, and we want to stop all that stigma concerning mental health and mental patients and so on. We just want to, ensure. And that topic is so broad. I must admit, I started doing some research, and it never ends until I had to say, "Oh my God, let me stop and give myself a break." So I am really really happy, and as you said, the topic is suicide, and let me just give a typical example of what, as a community member, what I went through as it relates to suicide. Sometimes you wake up in the morning. My first experience was I woke up in, what did I wake? Yes. Some persons in the community woke me up because you could have heard the noise at the time. So you live in a small community. By the time one person shout, everybody else in the community wakes up. So lo and behold, I'm hearing, I came out, and that day I can tell you, all community members come out with their nightie, their pajama, because it's a small community. And they said somebody hung themselves, and I'm there saying, my God. So, you know, the entire community came out running up to see the individual. I think the individual and himself in the mango tree. And I'm saying, Lord have mercy. They don't care. They did not care if how traumatizing it would be to them, the children, or anything. Everybody just rush out and go and see what was happening. And I'm saying, look how we expose our children, we expose ourselves, and so on. And what's the family members, how they eat, and so on happen in our community. And we have free suicide in our community within a span of maybe 10 to 15 years. So that is quite a lot. That's not something you see very often. You do hear about these things, but when it gets to your own community, it's quite alarming. And that is why I was so happy that you came up with that topic. You wanted to speak about suicide because I've seen community members, family members go through that ordeal, and maybe persons were not even aware of the signs, or they saw the signs and they choose to ignore it. So let me let y'all speak and let me learn today and let our community members learn quite a bit. And hoping that whatever we learn today, we can be a little bit more observant on what is happening around us and recommend these persons to the services that are available. So,
Take it away.
take it away. Erlan said, take it away, take it away.
Who wants to kick off?
So, who'll start first? Jana or Nus?
Okay.
I could start.
All right.
Um, so this year's theme, creating hope through action. Basically, we want to encourage people to be the action. And there are certain things that they can do to encourage or bring hope to persons who may be suicidal, contemplating suicidal, or who are depressed. Um, and one of those things is what we're doing now is by sensitizing the public to inform them that um, basically suicide is not the answer to anything, that there are avenues and other things available within their reach, that and persons who are willing to help them within their financial status as well, so that they can know that they're not alone in their walk and they're not alone in their fight. It's also important that as a public, we become more compassionate to persons who are depressed or persons who are anxious, persons who have mental illnesses, um, and persons who are suicidal. And I think as a community in our culture, we have a lot of compassionate females, female to female. But when you have to resort to male or female to male, the compassion is a lot less. We have this be a man type of mentality. That is why you find a lot of men are successful at suicide and they choose more lethal methods than women would choose. The public tends to not be as they tend to not have much of a listening ear when men voice their issues or concerns. And so our men have learned to not be emotional and not discuss how they feel because they're often ridiculed or asked to quote, suck it up.
Yeah, it's like
Um, when you think of women, they are encouraged to voice their feelings, they are encouraged to be emotional, they are embraced. Persons tend to be more compassionate and emotional towards them and understanding towards their situation. So it's almost like the fights are very different when you look at men versus women, and that is the culture that we are hoping to break. So we're trying to encourage our men to be emotional and tell them that it's okay to feel whatever it is they feel because they are humans. We are also trying to encourage the men to find a safe outlet to voice their feelings and their emotions rather than resorting to anger. And a lot of the time, this anger comes as a result of a lot of bottled up emotions that they've never released in the past. So we can live in a world that is more understanding, a world that is more receptive towards everybody and their differences.
Nurse, I want to ask you a question. Can you prevent mental health problems?
I'm sorry, I did not hear your question clearly.
Can you prevent mental health problems? Can someone?
Um, Mental health issues can be prevented, but it depends on the issue that you're looking at. So, for instance, if you want to speak of somebody who is often depressed, because we're speaking of suicide, there are certain strategies that you would use, the mental health professional would use. Um, for example, we would assess what coping mechanisms they already have in place. We can discuss additional coping mechanisms for future use. We can see how they have coped in the past and see how those experiences can relate to this current situation. We would look at their support system, and if you'll be surprised, certain persons don't have a support system at all. They're literally their own support. So we would move them in the direction of building a positive support system. In bigger countries, they have such things such as support animals that has been proven to be successful, um, such as those.
Okay, because
Let me,
I wanted you to be specific when you made mention of support system, because I was asking you when it comes to support system, if it's financial or if it's a loved one.
right. So support system can be emotional, financial, physical, spiritual, basically psychosocial. It could be any aspect, any element of the individual's life. So when we look at the support system, we're not just looking to see, for instance, if it's somebody who has lost their employment, we're not just looking to see how we're going to support them financially, but we want to see whether or not they believe in God, what their religious choice is. We might, if they have issues linking with a pastor or the elder in the church, we would link them with the individual or individuals. If it is emotional support, we would link them to counseling services that are available, etc.
All right, I want to
So the
ask.
support is limited.
All right, I want to ask you a question. How do you maintain mental health?
Maintenance of mental health is it's difficult for our culture because we are not taught to take care of ourselves.
Elaborate.
We're to take care of ourselves. As women, I find we are expected to take care of everybody else but ourselves. So we're expected to take care of the household, take care of the children, take care of the husband, take care of the elderly, people like our mother, our father, take care of our little siblings like growing up, help them go through school. And in all of this, we do not do self-care.
Right.
So it's important to do self-care for mental health maintenance. We are taught to take care of ourselves medically, but we're not taught to take care of ourselves mentally. And in order for us to take care of ourselves mentally, we need to do things that are considered stress-free that we love to do,
Like
not
what?
anything that other people love to do. For instance, it may be playing dominoes with your friends. It may be playing video games. It may be reading a book. It may be hiking. It may be taking a stroll on the beach. It may be writing in your journal. It could be anything that does not involve the use of substances that would cause you to be high or drunk. Anything that is unhealthy is not encouraged, but anything that would allow you an opportunity to vent is a positive self care routine. And
Before
this
we
is something that you should do every single day. Every single day. Not when you go on vacation, not on the weekend, not on your off day. It could be 10 minutes a day, every single day.
before we go on, um, a gentle reminder to send the numbers out for persons who have
Oh,
questions and so on.
yes. Again, if you want to make a contribution, you can reach us at 7305388. Again, the number 7305388. Or you can simply call us at 4597885. Again, the number 4597885 if you want to make your contribution.
So, Jana, we were hearing a little noise in your background. So, I'll ask Nurse Gabriela a question to see if I'm hearing the noise in the background also. Nurse Gabriel,
Hi.
um, okay, so I guess your background doesn't have that
Great.
noise. So, we're thinking it was technical difficulty on our end. All right. So,
Okay.
okay. So, Jana, we now with Nurse Gabriel.
Yes.
Oh, okay. So, Nurse Gabriel, go right ahead.
Okay, so like my colleague, she went into details. I'll just like to build on it. So our
Wonderful.
objective, as she said, is to spread hope and provide vital information to those affected by suicide. And I like to provide us statistics, at least so we could get a greater understanding of the severity of suicide. And this is according to the World Health Organization. They state that every 45 seconds, someone takes their life. And this is an estimated of 703,000 persons annually, right? We believe by raising awareness, reducing the stigma around suicide, encouraging well informed action, we can reduce instances. Taking a look at St. Lucia's statistical rate, the historical data, St. Lucia rate in 2017, it recorded a suicide rate of 7.90, which was an increase of 6.76% compared to 2016. However, in 2018, there was an increase by 1.27%, and in 2019, there was a decline by 1.25%. Now we know the COVID-19 pandemic occurred. And while there is limited statistical data available in St. Lucia, there are several studies which has shown the pandemic has amplified the risk associated factors to suicide. We saw persons losing their job. There was economical loss, trauma, because we recorded a number of deaths associated to suicide. There was an increase based on the studies of mental health disorders, specifically depression, which is linked to suicide, and anxiety. Anxiety, why? Because of the COVID pandemic being something relatively new in humans. The first contracted it at the time kind of felt like a death sentence because of the lack of information associated to it. There are also barriers to accessing healthcare. As we know, there were protocols in place such as lockdowns, etc. My colleague again said she stressed on the theme of this year's suicidal month. It is creating hope for action. This theme, it is a reminder that there is an alternative to suicide, and it aims to inspire confidence and light in all of us, right? By creating hope for action, we are here to signal to people experiencing suicidal thoughts that there is hope, and we care and we want to support them. It also suggests that our actions, no matter how big or small, it will provide hope to those who are struggling, right? And my colleague did mention that different resources available. We have the different health centers persons could access. Attached to each health center is the mental health team, which we are part of. We also have the helpline, which is toll free. We are encouraging persons to anybody who is going through emotional distress or just a difficult time, they could access it. It's totally free of charge, so there's no cost associated to it. We also have the St. Lucia National Mental Wellness Center they could access. Now I'm aware of the stigma associated to suicide, so I like to go and clear off some myths associated to suicide. One of them is that persons believe that persons who commit suicide are mentally ill. That's not the case. Like I mentioned, there are risk factors associated, which we saw with the COVID-19 pandemic, where persons lost their jobs. It could put them in a poor mental frame of mind in which they could actually contemplate. All right. So, in addition to that, the warning signs. I like to go to the warning signs. Another myth is that persons who take their life that they don't leave no warning signs. But there are other signs. It's just important to know the warning signs. So what are they? Okay, persons would verbalize. They would make expressions like "I wish I were dead." Those are warning signs. They would also some other warning signs is that persons may appear depressed, like my colleague said. They may feel hopeless, and they may even express the hopelessness. They may be also withdrawn from family and friends, which we as family members, we know sometimes though that is not the norm compared to. They might you might detect that they're having difficulty sleeping, either they're sleeping too much or too little. All those are warning signs. They may also lose interest in most activities which was once pleasurable to them. They may also give away their prized possessions. Those are all warning signs. They may also plan, like they're making out a will, and they're getting like their personal affairs in order. They might neglect their personal hygiene. They may um, display disruptive behavior. For example, getting into accidents which is not explainable. Those are some of the things we are we need to be mindful of. Right?
I guess the social withdrawal is one of the biggest things, right?
Right. Well, all of them are important, but those it makes up. Yes, it is. Yes. In addition to what I mentioned,
Yeah.
and the list goes on.
So,
Continue. Yeah.
Nurse, let me ask a question. Um, when you talk about verbally, I know a lot of persons actually say things to persons that can actually lead to these thoughts of suicide. It's the constant it's not really troubling her, but the constant
Would you say bullying?
not only bullying, but also, for example, let me give you a typical example. Like, if somebody is going through some issue and the person say, "Kasi say when we're having way." They always say that to
Yeah. Yeah.
people, and these kind of things really can, bring
Trigger.
about the suicidal thoughts because the person now is in a situation where they're losing hope, and persons always say these things to them. It's what you say to another person. These are the typical example of things you hear in the community. These expressions, or
Right.
the person is going through a certain difficulty in their life, and they make reference to that person taking their life. So I just want to say, is there something that we can say to the public when it comes to these kind of verbal expressions to your family members, your colleagues, your peers, and so on, whilst they're going through a difficult time in their life?
Okay. Right. So we'll encourage persons out there is to talk openly with their loved ones. Be willing to listen to them. Allow them to express themselves and accept their feelings. We don't want persons to be judgmental. We want them to be non-judgmental to them. Avoid lecturing them about values of their life, how it should be lived. I encourage persons to also get involved make themselves available, and like you said, don't dare them to take action if they express suicidal ideations. For example, I want to hurt myself. Don't dare them to do it. Avoid.
Yeah, because most, especially in St. Lucia, person takes things for joke, like, like a kicks off thing, everything that kicks off, kicks off.
Right. In addition to that, we'll encourage persons to. I know it might be a shock, like if somebody verbalize that they might be shocked, but avoid acting shocked because that might put distance between them on the person, and let them know they have, like we've been, um, like my colleague stated, there are alternatives available, right? There are alternatives, which we mentioned the different mental health locations. Um, there are alternatives. There is hope. It is okay to not feel okay. It doesn't make you weak, especially like my colleague mentioned in the men. It's okay. We want to encourage the help seeking behavior, especially in St. Lucia. It is okay to seek help. It is okay to not be okay.
But nurse, another thing we have to be mindful of is our institutions themselves, as well as our health services and our health professionals. I mean, sometimes we live and work in certain communities, and the services are within the same communities, and you find a lot of persons have difficulty because sometimes we as health professionals, because we know them from our community, we create that level of discomfort for these people, and we have to be mindful of all of that because sometimes, I mean, these are people you raise up with, and they are the same ones at the health facilities, and we as health professionals have to be sometimes a little bit more professional and a little bit mindful, because these people are coming for the services, and what we say to them to, I mean, can really deter them from coming to the wellness center or the health facilities to get the assistance that they truly need. And we also have to be mindful of all of that. So yes, when we speak, um, community members can really play a part, but we as health professionals also need to be mindful when these people come to our doors, even if we know them, even if, I mean, we know their entire generations and so on, is what we say to them can really deter them from coming and get the services that they truly need to make a difference in their life. So what do you have to say on that, nurse?
Okay, well, I could speak for my mental health team. I would say that we haven't had any complaints with that. I would say my team is a good one and they are aware of the information we're saying and even more. So they are aware, and like you said, we as healthcare professionals need to be mindful, and we will take that into consideration.
I like using the word mindful, but I like, understanding the inner psyche of a person who is suicidal.
I don't even understand somebody's in
Like just
mama.
try. It's kind of difficult for you, but like, that is a serious thing. Mental health issue. That's a serious thing. But when persons feel, remember, they feel frightened, they conflicted, they feel very alone. That is, you have to your best. You have to put out to understand.
But that is why we have the professionals, and that is why they're bringing out the message out
All right.
to
Let
us.
me ask you: does that always work? I don't know, because in everything you've had challenges before.
So what's your question? So if somebody has suicidal thoughts and they come
To
to
a
our
professional,
to professionals, does it always work that they don't end up
right, being, going ahead and actually making it happen, because I know no two humans are wired the same. You understand? So hence the reason I'm asking this question.
any is can answer?
Yeah, any one of you guys can answer.
Once the individual gets the right help, it works.
The right
Once they
help.
get the right help, it works, because what my help might be might not be what your help might be.
That is what I'm
Might,
saying.
that is why it is important for a mental health professional to be the one to do the assessment on the individual, and not somebody who is not thoroughly trained, because somebody who is not thoroughly trained may listen to what the individual is saying but not pick up on what they're not saying. When you're thoroughly trained, you hear what they're saying and you pick up what they're not saying. And so you can engage them differently. I don't know if you understand.
Yes, I do understand. I do understand. Another question I want to ask you, this is quickly. Apart from this platform you use, you guys actually have seminars? You'll go to the schools, to actually raise the awareness and so talk to us some more about it. Tell us some more.
Well, recently we partnered up with BOSL, both Castries and Sufre.
Super, yeah.
Correct me. We
Yeah,
partnered up with them. So we had activities at their branches. We have partnered up with other private entities to do screenings and mental health talks. We do go to the schools. We go to various health centers. We fire service, police service. I think the only set of people we've not touched is the teachers. But we are literally everywhere, like
Very,
everywhere.
very
in the
good.
Yeah,
Very good. I like
community.
that. Very
They've been
good.
in the
yeah.
community, the other health fairs at the at various locations, right, nurse? I know
Yes.
for a fact that our mental health team has been at, if not all our health fairs, in the schools, in the community. We had men's health fair, women's health fair, and they have been present at, and even the workplaces also, like you said, they have been there. And I must admit, um, even the little initiative that I saw at one of the workplaces was the stress ball. And it had a little funny face, and it was a stress ball. And to me, those persons who had the stress ball at the workplace keep on using it, even realizing that they're using it. It was just like that's exactly what they need at the time. And that was such a good initiative, I must admit. And these are the little things, I mean, we might overlook. And since the mental health team, that's their specialty and so on, we might say that's what, but then it goes a long way. And I saw it actually, persons was just using it, which is
I agree.
quite, that was a very good
I agree.
initiative, I must
I
admit.
agree.
Sometimes we are not the, like Jana said, Nasilik said, I mean, the health professionals, they are the ones that, really know what to do. And I'm just saying, Monsieur, that little thing goes such a long way for these workers. And that's something I, as an individual, would have just overlooked, and look at the difference it makes. So, yeah, Erland, their presence have been in a lot of communities, and a few
I
places.
get it. I take
Yeah.
it that they're well received. That's good.
Yeah,
Very
yeah.
good. So continue doing the great works.
Um, a while ago, you speak about the coping mechanism, and I know many people say about coping mechanisms and so on. But can you just elaborate on what you mean by coping mechanisms when they go through suicidal thoughts or they're having these issues? Nurse?
You heard the question?
To define coping mechanisms, it basically defines itself. So it's basically things that, even from childhood, that we have done, that assist us with managing a stressful situation. So those things are what is considered coping mechanisms. And coping mechanisms, there's no one coping mechanism that is wonderful and amazing and everybody should use. It is very individual. It's very, and for some people it can be very personal. So coping mechanisms can be um, listening to soothing music. It can be lighting a scented candle when you get home or in your personal space. It could be journaling or um, venting through writing, whether it be a poem or a song or a story. It could be taking a long walk. It could be venting to somebody that you trust. It could be going for a massage. It's the list can literally go on. Like you could literally exhaust the list. But any activity that is considered a positive activity, something that does not bring out negative emotions and or negative behavior are considered good coping mechanisms.
Thank you, nurse. I have another question. Many times persons have suicidal thoughts. And what happened? We tend to, I know you mentioned spiritual a while ago, but we tend to go to our spiritual leaders who might not be, um, I wouldn't say trained, but adequately trained, some of them, that is. And these persons go to our spiritual leaders for help. What would you say to these persons?
Well, like every other need of human beings, persons who consider themselves spiritual, when they're going through a stressful episode, they do feel the need to meet a spiritual void. And as a result of that, you find that they would trust their elder or pastor or spiritual leader for guidance in that area. What I would say to them is if they feel like their spiritual leader is not able to meet their spiritual needs at that time, there are trained persons um, who are themselves spiritual leaders who may be able to guide them more appropriately. For instance, one of the Catholic priests studied psychology, so he does counseling. There are private counselors within the various denominations, such as SDA, Catholic, Pentecostal, etc. So basically, every religion is covered. Additionally, persons who are trained adequately, counselors, psychologists, psychotherapists, a part of their training does involve that area. And Miss Gabriel, who just completed her psych nurse practitioner course, would better be able to give an example. But yes, they are thoroughly trained in that area, and luckily, the mental health team has persons who are adequately trained and um, are aware of spiritual needs an individual may have. Ms.
So now
Gabriel.
what I'm saying is, if in a nutshell, you might feel, yes, you have that spiritual need, but you need a little bit beyond the spiritual need, where you need a trained personnel from the mental health team. And all the time you thinking, well, that's the void that you lack, and most probably you're not seeing any progress. um, so, what would you recommend for our spiritual leaders? Yes, you train, but you might not be trained adequately. And there are times where someone that you counseling might need a little bit more, or they might need the expertise from our mental health team to guide that person a little bit more. So what
Well,
would
to the spiritual leaders, they should be mindful and be aware enough to know when their services has surpassed the needs, well, does not surpass the needs of the individual, and they should be ready to refer them to the community services or whatever services that are available within the individual's reach, because realistically there are persons, because of their um, psychosocial standing or their economic standing, they may feel like they don't want to be seen by the public team. And we completely respect that. So if the spiritual leader is aware of their standing in society, and they realize that they're unable to provide the necessary help, they should refer them to the help that is needed. And each denomination, um, from my knowledge, is aware of services that are available, and those services extend outside of the denomination. So the services would include even abuse and battery, etc. They would be equipped to know who to refer to. And if they happen to refer to the wrong person, then that person within the system would know the correct referral. But
thank
the
you.
end goal is to get them the help.
That is true, and I will agree with you because sometimes I mean you see persons in the community, yes, they go through certain stuff and then they refer to our spiritual leaders. However, sometimes they need a little bit more intervention, and sometimes
True.
you don't see that happening,
True.
even if you can see that they need, because they have so much faith. Don't get me wrong, our spiritual leaders are sometimes work wonders in our lives and our family lives. And I truly believe in the Almighty Creator. But there are times where they need to have that I wouldn't say boundary, but that guidance to our people that yes, you need the spiritual aspect of it, but something else is going on, especially if you're having suicidal thoughts, you something else is going on. Maybe you need help from other services out there that has the persons that has the expertise, the knowledge and everything else to help you with that situation better. That's just my take on that one because um, with me working in the community, you see the situations, you know of the situations. It can happen to your own family members. And based on that, you just draw reference so that other persons in the community, if they are going through the same, at least they know, there are other help out there apart from our spiritual leaders, if needs be. That's all I'm saying that on that one. Um, so, nurse, let me ask a question. I know I'm asking a lot of
Be good. Be
questions.
good. You have to ask the
Um,
questions.
Many times we have stressful jobs, and or like you said, we as women, we are the caretakers of the house, children, and we need that me time or to take care of ourselves. And sometimes we always say that we're going to do it, we have to do it, and we never do it ourselves. I must admit, I am guilty as charged on that one. I'm always saying, oh, I need to go to the spa and take a massage, or I need to go by the beach. And the beach is just a 15 minutes drive away. And it's years you haven't been to the beach. You understand? Or just park by the beach and say you're watching the waves or something, because we're so caught up with the lifestyle until reality strikes us. We're going through depression or anxiety because we have so much going on. What advice do you have for, I mean, women and men alike, but mostly for the women, because always they're always the backbone of the family, and they always engage in all activities except for when it comes to taking care of themselves. So what advice would you have for us women in particular when it comes to that?
Is if there's anything women are good at doing is scheduling stuff. We find time. We find time to clean the house, and we find time to take care of the kids, and we find time to do homework with them, and we find time to get our work done. So we need to find time for ourselves. Um, Personally, with me, my me time is normally when everybody in my house is asleep. So my me time starts at 8:40 p.m. and it ends anywhere between 9 and 9:30 p.m. just to make sure that I get some time uninterrupted, um, to do things that I like, and I try my best not to take away from the kids' time, because the kids have homework and the kids need your attention. And then there's the Maui that needs your attention too. And sometimes you unexpectedly may take some work matter home. And when you work in mental health, you always take work home. Once you have a phone and the health center or the doctors or the clients have your numbers, you are always at work. So it's important during that time. We, as women, as caretakers, we find the time. We schedule time to do it. And I think something that we do a lot is that we make excuses. The beach is 15 minutes away, but I have to walk and I have to carry my towel. And if I go on the bus and people see sand on my foot, the driver going to tell me something. We make excuses why we should not do it. And we need to stop doing that and make excuses for us to do it. We need to find reasons for us to do the things we know we need to do to take care of ourselves as women. I'm not a guy, but based on the things that we have seen men do, men need to find a way to take care of themselves that does not include a substance such as
Alcohol,
alcohol.
depression.
They need to find other things to do to because when you drink alcohol, you don't really debrief, you don't vent your feelings, you don't do anything relaxing. A lot of the time you get drunk and you just start acting the fool. And then in the morning time, you have a whole hangover to deal with before you go to work, which makes absolutely no sense. Or you go home and your woman and your children more vexed because you come home drunk, and look, you cause another problem
Yes,
that you
sir.
cannot deal with. So it's in your best interest to find something that you like doing that does not include the use of a substance, something that is healthy. And recently I got to know of a male who developed candles for men, because they found that there are men that enjoy the presence of a lit candle. They
Really?
just don't want to yes. You see, men don't say these things. They just don't want to deal with the vanilla or the lavender or the female scents, because a lot of the candles are advertised for women. So there are, a line. He created a line of scented candles for men, and his sales are actually pretty good. And funny enough, some of his scents are weird to me, a female, but it's like gas or kerosene or some oil or something, and the men buy it and they use it, and they voice feeling calmer because they feel like somebody, one, understands them to create something for them, and two, they found something that they can use while they cool down.
All right. Of course, I know some of you on the outside and locked on. Shout out to all you in the diaspora, in the radio land, via telephone. Of course, how can you help somebody with suicidal thought? Remember, you can ask, you can be there, you can keep them safe, you can help them connect, and do a little follow up on them every now and then. You understand? All that is helping someone, with suicidal thoughts. Why not?
So our time is nearing.
Hey, it's 11 o'clock.
It's 11 o'clock. So we'll end by Nurse Jabatis. Your final words. Nurse Jabatis, are
You
you
mean
ready?
this Gabriel?
Nurse
Oh,
Gabriel.
yeah.
Oh my God, too many nurses.
That's okay. Okay. So, like I and my colleague preached out from morning is to we want to instill hope and we want to encourage, most importantly, the help-seeking behavior. I like to leave those words with the audience and with you all. That it's okay to ask for help. It's okay to not be okay. We mentioned the different outlets available. We are non-judgmental. We are here to help. So we're just encouraging persons to access those facilities. And yes,
All right, Nurse Felix.
um I just want to stress on our theme, which is creating hope through um, help. And persons need to understand that we, you, me, any one of us can be the light for an individual who is going through a depressive episode or a mental health concern. We have to be very mindful of what you say to the individual. Be very mindful of your non-verbal as well. And try not to tell them what you would do in the situation, because really and truly you're not in the situation. So you're not experiencing what they're experiencing. You're not realizing that the avenues you may have available, they don't have it. The upbringing that they had, their lack of emotional maturity that they may have, you may not, you may be a lot more emotionally mature. So you can make a real difference in somebody's life. And a lot of people talk about children being bullies, but adults are much bigger bullies than children are. Adults are the ones that create bullies in children, because they're the ones looking at us, at our behavior, our reactions to things, at the way that we treat people. So if you have nothing nice to say to somebody, it's better to say nothing at all than to try to break them, because you can walk into anywhere and somebody can have the biggest smile on their face, but deep inside they're going through the worst things. People need to realize that everyday people, we wear masks. We wear masks every single day, and the one time we remove our mask is when we're alone. And at that time we have already taken so many different stabs from so many different directions that we feel the physical pain of being depressed, of being anxious, of being frustrated, of feeling hopeless. And sometimes your final negative word can be what sets the person over the cliff. So it is best, if you have nothing good to say, don't say anything at all. If you have somebody that you feel might be suicidal, don't leave them by themselves. They don't have to be your friend. If you know them or you know somebody they know, you can contact somebody they know to stay with them if you're uncomfortable. If you do not know what to do, 203 is not just for persons who are suicidal. 203 are also for people who are trying to prevent somebody from committing or completing suicide. So be mindful that 203 is for all of us. You can use it yourself. Call, I have somebody with me. What do I say to them? How do I speak to them? What services can you render to them? Where can I bring them? Who can they talk to? And you will be adequately guided. And there is a lot of stigma. There is a lot of negativity attached to some of the government services, and we want the public to know that we are the cream of the crop. We take our job very seriously because we realize that if somebody has a mental breakdown, that they're inadequate, both mentally, physically, emotionally, sexually, physiologically, they are incapable. An individual can be physically tired but still be able to perform their duties at work. But when you are mentally drained, you are incapable to focus. You cannot focus. You cannot cope. You cannot manage. You cannot help. You cannot deal. So we realize the the weight that our service carries, and we take that weight very seriously, and we try our best to help individuals with their daily lives and their daily endeavors. So don't be afraid to tap into the service. The service is available island wide, and our service starts from mental health aids and it ends as at a psychiatrist. So we don't just have mental health nurses or psych nurse practitioners. We have psychiatrists, we have a psychotherapist, we have social workers, we have persons assigned to our unit on board to help you.
Thank you, Nurse Felix. Well said. I'm so happy that you emphasize on the services that are rendered to our public out there. Again, I'm hoping that we continue our mental health issues on this program. I know community wise, you have been doing a very, very good job, I must admit. I'm hoping that the public hearing y'all could render support in whatever little way they can. Like you said, if you don't have any good thing to say, just don't say anything at all. Um, Let me just a gentle reminder for our vaccines, our pediatric vaccines are available at all our wellness centers from the ages of 5 to 11, the Pfizer vaccine. Also, let me say good morning to my colleague, Fawn. I know she's listening out there. I hope you're having a great day. Not, I mean, you're not there with me. You surely missed. Erlen already asked me for you, but I said you couldn't make it today. So again, thank you, Nurse Gabriel and Nurse Felix. It's such a pleasure having you again, Jana. It's always a pleasure. And Nurse Gabriel, I know later down in the year you will be back, and I'm hoping that one of these days when I'm out there in the community, we can surely meet face to face. All right. Thank you so very much. Do
For
have a
having us.
pleasant day. Do have a pleasant day, and thank you
Same to
again.
you.
All right.
All right, bye.
Bye
Till
bye.
next Monday, God's willing, folks. Take good care of yourself and others. You know already from between the hours of 10 o'clock and 11 a.m. All right, so Casualty 911 is on. I want to thank you.
Thank you,
All right.
Ulan, likewise.
All right. Hey, just before we run out, of course, wishing you guys again happy Monday. Of course, and here's your gratitude list: the breath of life, sound mental state, of course, physical health, and the love of the Almighty. All right. So again, happy Monday. We start the week with gratitude for everything life offers because remember, even in challenges, there are lessons. Okay. So bear this in mind. Hey, this was Casualty 911.
Casualty 911, 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. with the consultant. Health is not merely the absence of diseases. It is your social, economic, physical, spiritual, and mental well-being. Just imagine you on 88.5 Sufra FM, talking, questioning, sharing your experience, information, education, entertainment, news, instructions, advice,